Hey friends, it's Gloria and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about my favorite wintry picture books that I have found. I decided to do this project a bit on a whim. I love seasonal reading and I love picture books. I have loved picture book reading even before I had a son. It really started when I started working at the library and was coming across these beautifully illustrated picture books. And people like Shelly and Jack here on Booktube, I'll link them down below, create beautiful picture book readathons, a fun reading event where people can read picture books. And in 2024 I did a couple months of wrap-ups where I highlighted a picture book author at the end of the month. I wanted to dive in through the backlist, so I got inspired to do this. I wanted to find some wintry picture books and I read, oh, can I move this stack? I read 30 of them. I am not going to talk about all 30 of these picture books because that would be a ridiculously long video. And to be fair, a few of them aren't even worth talking about. They weren't my favorites. Obviously, picture book reading is very subjective. The words also have to match the illustrations, and I'm a little bit picky about my illustration style. I tend to gravitate towards more bright pops of color and vibrancy rather than, you know, black and white. And I don't have any kind of art background or understanding of art really, so I don't have that knowledge to like highlight the particular art style that the illustrator is doing in the picture book. People like Shelly Swearingen do have that background and they talk a lot more eloquently about picture books, but I wanted to just do a little bit of a deep dive, a recommendation if you will, of some picture books that I think would be perfect to read during the season if you have little ones, grandchildren, or children yourself, or just love picking up picture books now and again. It's very nice to just read one. It's like a palate cleanser in between your reading, so I highly recommend checking some of these out from your library and just being pleasantly surprised. I feel like picture books are equivalent to me as reading poetry. Most of them are poetry. There's also illustrations, so it's really no different than reading a poetry book or a graphic novel, and it kind of combines the two. It's a very pleasant experience, so I highly recommend. What I noticed as I read through 30 or so of these is there's, first of all, a lot of winter specific picture books. I did a few ones that were Christmas related, but I tried to not as much. A lot of them are related to it snowing outside, which it doesn't snow here very often or Oregon, but I think it might this year at some point. And a couple of themes I noticed is a lot have to do with animals in the woods kind of coming together, and I tend to gravitate towards the ones that more depict reality than the ones where the animals are overly silly. I have a few exceptions to that rule, of course. But yeah, I tend to like more realistic picture books than fantastical, silly, sweet animal ones that I know children love, because of course they do. So without much more rambling on, let's get into some of these picture books and I'll show you some of my favorite ones and flip through, and hopefully you'll have a list to check some out if you're so inclined. Okay, so I have my top 10 here that are wintry, snowy, more on the realistic side of picture books. And these are not in any super particular order. The first one I have is Winter Bees and Other Poems of the Cold by Joyce Sidman and Rick Allen. This is a picture book that I read a few years back in a bee video where I read books with bees in the title or on the cover. This one I came across and absolutely loved. It was my favorite picture book of the year, so much so that I bought it, and I have it for my son in our wintry seasonal pile of books that I hope he will love and read throughout the years. This is a beautiful book of poetry depicting real life moments in animal wildlife that different animals experience during winter season. This was the bee page that I absolutely loved. So it has a poem and then it has a little nonfiction section on the side that talk about the specific animal. If you're learning about animals or winter season, or just want to highlight some of the beauty of nature during this season, this one was gorgeous, both with illustrations and with the words as well. On the same vein, I really enjoyed Whose Tracks in the Snow by Alexandra Milton. What I loved about this picture book is the art style is like materials that are collaged within the artwork that create the animals. It's almost like she's ripping apart different textures and fabrics. You guys see it in the trees and the snow. This one also has a mix of something fun and like big text as well as nonfiction text on the side. So also love this one depicting realistic nature, wintry wildlife. Love those trees. You know what's something funny, actually my husband brought this up, is how much foxes are depicted all over children's literature, at least where I live. in the Pacific Northwest. I know there has to be foxes, but I have never seen a fox. As a almost 30-year-old person, I have never come across a fox. They're never in zoos, which I think is bizarre to me too, at least not in our zoo or the zoos that I've been to. So I'm like, why are foxes so popular? They are like nowhere to be found. But then I guess I don't live in like Alaska. I don't see bears on a regular basis, and they're all over literature too. But foxes are so everywhere. Super little side tangent, but foxes are very prevalent in a lot of these wintry books. Like The Little Fox in the Snow by Jonathan London and Daniel Miyares. I love the little woods depicted here as well, of a little fox in the den, in the woods. And I love this illustration style a lot. I love that woods, foresty. And this one was very realistic to how foxes want to chase, and they are predators. They aren't just sweet little creatures, but they actually do want to eat a mouse and then eat something bigger. Like that shadow. Oh, I love that shadow. And it sees a little bunny. And the depth of field in this story as well, I really loved. So I thought this was a really interesting, oh, that sunset, so pretty. And that light, that coloring was beautiful. So, love this one. I think it's an excellent picture book. Would highly recommend, about foxes. And hopefully I will see one day in my lifetime. Another one that is primarily nonfiction is Winter Sleep Hibernation Story by Sean Taylor and Alexis Morse, illustrated by Singyi Chu. This is a nonfiction all about a grandmother and her grandson going on a walk in nature, and then he talks about the things that he doesn't see in the wintertime, but then she starts explaining to him all about hibernation. So this one is a little bit more non-fiction-y and explains the wildlife of winter animals, but I thought that they did a good job. So it has the kind of a story side and then a non-fiction part to the book as well. It talks about all of the animals that hibernate in the wintertime. Another one with hibernation as a theme is Over and Under the Snow by Kate Messner and Christopher Silas Neal. There's a whole series of these over and under of different seasons, different types of environments, the mountains and the jungle and the sea, and I've seen a few come through the library. They often are circulating. Another theme where a parent and child are in the woods and they come across different animals that live there and how they are surviving during the wintry conditions. And I just thought this depicted very similarly to the last book I mentioned, of different animals during the season and how they behave and interact and survive, and in general would recommend this whole series. Is a good one. I only have a couple board books in this stack. Snow Still by Holly Surplice is a really good one and very sweet, super simple, has like 2 words per page, but I liked the illustration style and the story of this little deer in the wintertime. It's very appropriate, obviously for quite a young reader. Almost reads like a wordless picture book, but I enjoyed this one quite a lot, and I like the illustration style as well. And just has all of the different elements of snow, and it makes you feel the snow very deeply and very sweetly as it ends. So this was an excellent one on snow. Very simple, very sweet. Another one is called So Much Snow by Kristen Schroeder and Sarah Jacoby. It's definitely one of the favorites of the bunch because I loved the poetic rhyming style and the textures on the page and the way the words play with the artwork as well. You get like an anticipation of snow, a snowfall, a big snowfall in wintertime, how different animals are handling the snow and what a big snowstorm feels like, and then also the slow process of the snow melting and the animals peeking out. I thought it was very fun. Loved the wording and like the fun textures on the page. I really liked. So cute. Another one that has to do with snow is Just One Flake by Travis Jonker. This one was quite silly and fun and not my totally favorite illustration style, like very, I mean, I like that it's bold, but it's not Crisp. It's all about a little child that really wants to eat a snowflake. So it's definitely more about the story, overall story, than it is about the single page standing out on its own. About a child being really silly, wanting to catch a snowflake, and then having to come inside, and then discovering the beauty of that snowflake. And very cute. Very simple as well. And then I have two winter specific books. One is called It's Winter by Renee Carilla, and she has a whole series of these books saying it's spring, it's fall, or maybe it's autumn, and this is a series, and I think this just depicted the joys of winter, the different activities one can do. Definitely more of a like cutesy, cartoony style, like adorable little, you know, red cheeks, and playing in the snow with your friends, having a snowball fight. This was very fun one about like a little town that has a snowstorm and all the fun things one can do with snow. Has a little bit of like a Christmas celebration aspect to it, and Hanukkah as well, just the different seasons and holidays that happen during wintertime, even Valentine's Day. And lastly in my top 10 is Winter Garden by Janet Fox and Jiazu Hu. This one is about a little girl creating a garden with her mother on her windowsill, and this is fully a poetry book, which this is one where I think the words kind of outshine the artwork, but I do like the artwork style. Not my total favorite, but I do really enjoy it. A lot of these wintry books have this kind of pastel-y, powdery, light touch, but it's all about basically having herbs grow on your windowsill and then cooking with them. And I think this just depicts connecting with nature and also growing your own seeds, growing your own plants. And at the end, it gives a little bit how to do that, which I think was really fun as well. Because I can't help myself, I'm also going to have a little bit of an honorable mention section here about some picture books that are in different categories that have just a little bit of a twist to them, or some fantastical element that I think are also really fun and sweet or really enjoyable to read, but aren't the realistic ones like I mentioned. The first one is So Much Snow by Yoonmin Park. This one was just overly silly and crazy, but was so much fun to read. So this is the standard picture book way. So you're gonna have to turn your head, but it reads this way. And the story is told this way. And it's very simple, almost like flip book art, a lot of white space. And it's two friends digging themselves out of the snow, and all of the white space is snow. And a little tractor up there. So it plays with space and imagination, depth of field, and like negative space really interestingly. I think this is a artistic book, and you have to like pay attention to the art style to really understand what's going on. But I thought that it was so much fun. So this one was one, look at this, this is the nose of a snowman that they're taking up to the top. And they're on a little ladder. And then this is the snowman. It's just, it's really over the top and eccentric of a picture book, but it's worth checking out just to experience, because I thought that it was silly and interesting. Another one that has a bit of a silly concept, The Search for the Giant Arctic Jellyfish by Chloe Savage. The Arctic is not specific to wintertime, but because of the location, it made me think of winter. I absolutely loved this illustration style, and the colors, the mix of red and blue on the page, and all those little jellyfish. It was an interesting story about a woman captain and her teammates on a ship to the Arctic to try to discover this jellyfish. This is where the story was okay for me, but I absolutely loved this art style, and I thought it was so beautiful and fun. And obviously it's fantastical, because I don't think there's a giant jellyfish like this, but it was really beautiful to just visualize and see. I enjoyed it so much for that aspect. Just love the colors. Then I have 4 picture books that have to do with the fantastical element of animals in the woods, like talking to each other or being sweet and warm, like the unrealistic side of animals behaving in winter, but I think the stories are really adorable. This first one is Mika, the Bear Who Didn't Want to Sleep by Eric Creek, and this is a translated picture book. This is a book where the translation is lost a little bit, and I didn't think the text was very strong, but this art style, I don't know what this is, if it's print or paint or something, but it is deep and it is beautiful, and I just absolutely loved this illustration style. And I would say the words were not as interesting at all, but I love the picture and the quality of this picture book. Like the pages themselves feel really nice as well. All about a bear who wants to be awake during winter and not fall asleep. This page is so beautiful. Another theme I noticed was prevalent was about animals that hibernate not wanting to hibernate because they want to experience the magic of winter. Another one on the same lines, this is Mice Skating, that also has that theme. I thought this one was more on the adorable side of a little mouse that wants her friends to experience winter. So she makes them ice skates, and this one just very sweet. It has a bit of a punny feel because one of the mice always makes jokes about cheese. This one is just very cute. That little mice being cozy. So for all the cozy fans out there. This next one is a pop-up book, and this one is beautiful. This has to do with a retake on a folktale, but I loved the pop-up. I know pop-up books are popular, but also like not, because young kids can really mess them up, and you don't want to rip these beautiful pages because then it's not as fun anymore. But this pop-up book is all about a mitten that all of the animals can fit in magically, and it just was really a really fun little story. So unrealistic, but very fun to read. I'm very excited to have this one in my collection for my son to read one day with him. And lastly, another wintry animal story about these animals being safe in a barn. I love this just cozy, sweet, wintry feel. Also unrealistic because all the animals are together in one place, you know, like they can't really do that. I mean, maybe some animals, maybe some farms, but not ones that I know where all the animals can be together. But I just thought it was very sweet. If you've stuck around this long, you should add a snowflake or Christmas tree to your comment and say hello, because I have 3 more honorable mentions that all have to do with Christmas specifically. The first one is Pick a Pine Tree by Patricia Tott, illustrated by Jarvis. This one, loved the illustration style and the just joy of picking a Christmas tree and putting it up. This one is told fully in a rhyme poetry style, and I love that. Love the words of this one, and it just brings up that joy of decorating together and being with one another during the Christmas season. Putting up a tree, how fun it is. Well, wonderful poetry. It was a really lovely time. Another kind of Christmas tree related book is Red and Lulu by Matt Tavares. This is about a pair of cardinals that live in a tree, and then the tree gets chopped down and goes to Rockefeller Center in New York City. And it kind of tells a story of how trees are picked for that specific occasion every single year. How they pick a tree somewhere that is not native to the state or to the country. I thought it was actually interesting to learn about that aspect of Christmas in New York City. Told through the eyes of these 2 birds. And finally, The Shortest Day. This is specific to winter solstice. Kind of tells a story of winter solstice and how it started. This is also like fully a poetry book, kind of told through song. It spans time and history. It's very simple, kind of 1 line per page. I thought it was interesting if you're specifically looking into like the history of Christmas and solstice. More of a pagan like origins and how they have played into our current day celebrations. And the season of Yuletide. Since we're here, I'll mention, just by holding it up, some of these other books that I read for this project that just weren't favorites. They weren't horrible, I didn't hate them, but they just didn't stand out in either story or artwork to me, specifically. Again, very subjective. I want you to let me know in the comments after all of this if there is a Christmas or wintry or seasonal picture book that you absolutely love that you would recommend to me, because I'm more than happy to check it out from the library and enjoy it during the season, because I just think they're so lovely. So some other ones that I read during this project was The Tea Party in the Woods. I have Before Morning, very popular Caldecott winter one, Snow. This one is where I just didn't love the illustration style as much. Another popular author is John Klassen. How Does Santa Go Down the Chimney? This one was just like kind of overly silly to me. A lot of his books are very silly, and actually some of them are a favorite of mine, but this one was okay. Another favorite author that I just didn't really jive with is Jan Brett. She has very cozy, very specific and interesting illustration style that just isn't my favorite. I don't think it stands up to the current rate of picture books that there are, or my current appreciation for them. Maybe one day I'll really like these, but I thought they were fine. And there's a lot of like animal stories that I just thought were too simple and just didn't do much. The Winter Bird, Hero, Winter and Marshmallow, Winter, A Solstice Story. It's just kind of animals coming together in the winter time, and the words weren't really standing out. Wonder and Awe, Wake Up Moon. They're just like animal friends galloping around in the woods, and I totally get why little kids would enjoy them. They really didn't stand out to me as an adult reader in either words or illustration style. So yeah, that is my project. Those are all of the picture books that I read for this wintry season. I know I'm missing quite a lot of Christmassy ones, very classic ones that have been around for a while. I'm not as familiar with those. I didn't read those as a child, and so if you have any absolute favorites, please let me know down below, because I am always willing to find more picture books. I think they're so just pleasant and wonderful and heartwarming to read at times. They're kind of like a hug, and they actually are often very beautiful and emotional and stand out to me in my reading life as well. Thank you so much for watching today, spending some time with me, and happy winter, and I will see you guys in another video soon. Bye.